All right, so we're making our frittata. So I just want to show you the basic ingredients that you're going to need to follow along as you join us. I'm making a leek, spinach, broccoli, and feta frittata, but you can totally use any veggies that you have, any cheese that you have, any kind of milk that you have, whatever. So let's just see exactly the ingredients that you'll need. Olive oil, salt and pepper. Okay, and then we have all our different veggies here. I have my eggs. I'm using feta cheese, using half and half as my milk, but you can use any sort of milk you have, even a plant-based milk, like almond milk or something. I'm going to be chopping up some more leeks, and I have my spinach, and then I also have some chopped up broccoli. Okay, so all you need is just a couple cups of whatever veggies you have on hand. You can use frozen. Mommy, what veggies are you using?
I have broccoli, frozen spinach, and leeks.
Okay, and so the frozen spinach you took out to thaw right ahead of time?
I thawed it in the microwave and then squeezed all the juice out of it. It's definitely not 2 cups, so I'll put in extra broccoli.
Yeah, so whatever you have, the beauty of the frittata is to use whatever you have on hand and anything you might have left over. So like I had already cooked broccoli that I just blanched. You could also just have like regular steamed broccoli, and then I just chopped it up. So it has no seasoning on it or anything yet, so it'll just go in. But so if you had like a half a cup of broccoli in your fridge, you can use it. You don't need to have like exactly 2 cups of anything. And you can totally use frozen vegetables. So I'm using leeks a lot lately because they're in season for spring and they're super delicious, and they're in the onion family. They kind of look like a gigantic scallion, but they're a lot more mild than a regular onion. Okay, so what we want to do is we're not going to eat these leaves, but you can actually wash them and save them and use them in like a vegetable stock or something. But so we want to cut right here, and we're going to just discard these leaves, and we're going to chop up this part of the leek. Okay, so Mom's chopping away, and I'll show you guys how I do this here. Okay. Also, if you notice, my mom and I are both lefties, so our chopping might look a little backwards to you.
Everything looks backwards when you're a lefty.
So this is the dark green leaves. We're just going to discard those for now. You can compost them if you compost, or like I said, use them in a stock. And then we'll cut off the root, but just the very end of it, the very hairy end, because I want to leave the root kind of intact so the leek doesn't fall apart. And then we're going to cut it in half lengthwise. So now it looks like this. Now the thing with leeks, they have all these layers like any other kind of onion, but they get a lot of dirt in these layers. This one actually looks pretty clean. But so you want to stick this under the sink and run cold water through it as you go through the layers of it to get all the dirt out. So I'm just going to run to the sink and do that.
Very large leeks, I think.
Okay. Mom, what are you chopping?
What?
What are you chopping up?
I'm chopping up the rest of my leeks. I don't know. I have gigantic leeks.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have to use 2, because they come in varying sizes. So if your leeks are kind of big, you certainly don't need to use all of them. Okay, and I thought a couple of the outer layers were a little icky looking, so I'm just removing those. Okay.
Yeah, mine were pretty clean too, because I washed them before.
Yeah, and then so now we just have these halves, lay it flat, and we're just going to make thin slices all the way across.
Well, you cut a lot better than I do.
Let us know where you're watching from if you're here live with us, and let us know if you're here with your mom. Tell us if you're with your mom in person or if you're with her virtually. Okay, and then that very end root piece we discard.
See what Andrew wrote?
Okay. And let us know if you're cooking along with us or if you're just watching. If you have any questions about the ingredients you're using, throw them in the comments. I might not get to all your questions while we're cooking, but I will while we're waiting for the frittata to cook in a little while. Okay. And the other thing, I kind of went through what you needed in terms of ingredients. And then for actually cooking the frittata, you're going to want some sort of oven-safe skillet. So not all skillets can go in the oven. So you definitely want to make sure that your oven is skillet-safe. So if you're not, I recommend cast iron. Okay, so I'm going to be using this cast iron pan. You want to use something that's non-stick, preferably, because you're going to have a difficult time getting the frittata out of the pan if it's not non-stick. But be careful of the material that your non-stick is for the oven. Teflon can't go into the oven. And also be careful of whatever handle is on your skillet. Of course, you don't want anything plastic, wood, or something like that to go into the oven. So you want it to be something metals. It can be like a stainless steel outside with a non-stick inside. And then, of course, you'll need some sort of mixing bowl for the eggs, and either a whisk or a fork will work too. You want like 6 to 8 eggs, and the bigger your skillet, so you want at least an 8-inch skillet, but you can use 10-inch or up to 12-inch. But the bigger the skillet is that you're using, the more eggs you want to use. If you have less eggs in a bigger skillet, it'll still work, but you'll just have a thinner frittata. So yeah, so I'm making a vegetarian frittata, but you can certainly put any sort of meat in there that you want: bacon, ham, turkey, some like Italian meats, prosciutto or something like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna have a big handful of, not a piece of spinach, a container of spinach. And I just wanna show you how I just chop up. So I'm using fresh spinach. Mom is using frozen spinach. But the way that I do this is I just try to gather as much of it and kind of roll it into like a log. Okay, get your fingertips in there, hold the spinach tight, and just start chopping.
Oh man, she's really good at chopping stuff.
Okay, and then you can kind of turn it all and chop the other way. And when you're starting with fresh spinach, you always want to start with a lot because spinach will cook down to very little. So you always probably can start with a little bit more than you think. And then just keep running your knife through to chop it up nice and small. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's all of our veggies that we're going to be using. At this point, if you haven't already, preheat your oven to 400 degrees. They're great, like a great weekend breakfast, brunch, lunch, whatever, for cleaning out the fridge with whatever veggies you have left on hand from the whole week. And just kind of using what you got. You literally can toss like anything in there. Some of my favorite veggies, other than what I'm using, would be like mushrooms, maybe like red bell pepper. You could even zucchini, tomatoes are good. Yeah. You could even put thinly sliced potato in there. That's also delicious. Can you add onion to it as well? Yeah, you can do like half leek, half yellow onion. I wouldn't do 2 leeks and an onion. I would do like half and half. Otherwise, it'll be too oniony. But yeah, you can also use you can use any sort of onion instead of leeks. If you don't have leeks, you can use any yellow onion, white onion, scallions, even red onion would be fine. Okay. So now we're going to do the eggs. So I have 8 eggs here. And I would do at least 6. You can do like 10 or 12 if you're cooking for more people.
Is it pot?
What'd you say?
Is 8 good for the cast iron pot?
8, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we're just cracking all our eggs in. If you happen to get a shell in your egg mixture, the easiest way to get shell out is to use the shell to dig it out. Shell sticks to shell. You don't have to go fishing in there with a fork.
Or if you make it wet with water.
If what?
Wet finger. If you make your finger wet with water.
Oh, yeah.
And that'll also get shell out.
Using a shallot instead. Yeah, shallots also. You can do shallot and garlic. You can add garlic in here too. When it comes to actually, because that was like a tiny little egg. When it comes to actually cooking up the vegetables, we're going to want to cook any onions and garlic and things like that first, and then add in the other veggies. Nobody wants to bite down on raw onions, so you want to make sure that those get nice and softened. And we're going to season up the eggs with some salt and pepper. Just a nice hefty pinch. Well, too much of a hefty pinch.
Or in my case, more than a pinch because I like salt.
Yeah, well, we're gonna season the eggs and we're gonna season the veggies as they cook.
Oh, okay.
The more places that you can add salt in the cooking process, the more flavor you'll get. Okay, whisk these up. And in the middle of whisking, we're gonna add in our milk. So you want a 1/4 cup of milk. If you're using closer to like 12 eggs, then I would go up to a 1/2 cup of milk. So just kind of go with what you're using there. And adding, so I'm using 1/2 and 1/2. Something with a little bit of added fat into it versus like skim milk or something like that will help make the frittata a little bit fluffier. But you can use whatever you have. Okay, and then if you have any fresh herbs on hand, this is also a great way to use those up. If you have something that's kind of on its last legs, anything like parsley, basil, dill, those are all going to be really good. And if you are going to use them, just chop them up nice and fine, and then mix them into the eggs. Just kind of fold it into the eggs. You don't want to actually cook the herbs with the rest of the veggies because you don't want them to be all wilted. So you pour them in with the eggs if you're using them.
What about dried herbs?
Dried herbs you'll put in while you're sauteing the veggies.
Okay.
I would use any seasonings that you're using. I would season up the veggies with. Okay, so just want your eggs to be nice homogeneous mixture. Get all the yolk mixed in. You don't really we want to try to get rid of any streaks so you don't end up with like blobs of egg white in your frittata. We want it to be nice and yellow color. Okay, and with if you're using cast iron or you're using any sort of nonstick skillet, you don't want to use any like abrasive spatulas or anything. You don't want to scratch the nonstick coating. So use something that is safe for nonstick. It can be, I'll show you some different options that would work. You can use a wooden spoon. This is a heat-resistant silicone spatula. You can use something like that. You just really don't want to use metal more than anything else because that will scratch your pan. Okay.
Wait, your recipe said that we're supposed to put the cheese into the eggs.
Oh, you're right. Forgot about the cheese. Okay, yeah. Back to the eggs for a minute. So I'm using feta cheese. You can seriously use any sort of cheese, like any sort of shredded cheddar cheese or Swiss cheese, Gouda. Anything works. So we want a cup total of cheese. So I recommend putting half a cup in the egg mixture, just kind of fold it into the eggs, and then reserving the other half a cup to sprinkle onto the top in the pan before it goes into the oven. And then that way you'll get like nice bubbly cheese on the top. So let me do that now. Actually, so we'll get a half cup. Are you using, what cheese are you using?
I'm using feta, but I think when I top it, I might actually top it with feta and a little cheddar.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Yeah, you can totally
like
mixed cheeses too. It's delicious.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. So that's good. Set aside. Okay. So let's see here. All right, so we want our pan over like a medium heat. We're gonna add a couple tablespoons of olive oil. Also, you can, if you don't have olive oil, you can use a different kind of cooking oil as well. Or you can even use butter. Okay, so I also like to add a pinch of salt to the leeks to help them soften up. So do that. Okay, so we want to really if you're using any sort of onion, even if it's not leeks, like you want to cook those down first before you add other veggies so that they really get nice and soft. So the leeks will get soft pretty quickly, so they only need a few minutes. And especially if you're using already cooked vegetables that you have left over, then those really only need to go into the pan just to kind of get reheated and mix up with everything else. So they only need to go in the pan for a minute or two. So that's something to consider too with whatever veggies you are using. Obviously certain vegetables, they all cook at different times. If they're heartier veggies, you're going to want to put those in the pan first. So that would be something like if you have uncooked broccoli, things like zucchini or mushrooms, red pepper, versus more delicate veggies like any sort of greens like the spinach that we're using. I'm going to put that in last because that wilts down in like a minute. So you want to kind of space out when you're adding in your veggies so they cook at the right time. Okay. And again, we want to just kind of cook the onions down until they're softened, but not like super brown. I have another frittata that I love to make using actually roast cherry tomatoes first. So I just put cherry tomatoes on a baking sheet with some olive oil, salt, and pepper. And you stick them in the oven at like 425 for just like 10 minutes. And they get all roasty and they start to burst. And then you can put those right into the frittata mixture. And that's really delicious.
Oh. I would have done that. You should have told me that.
Oh.
That was delicious.
Well, that's just a good way to eat tomatoes anyway. Roasted cherry tomatoes are delicious. But if you bite into them when they're burning hot, they will burn your mouth. I'm a big fan of cooking seasonally. That's when you're going to get the most nutrient value out of your produce. You're going to get the most flavor out of your produce. You'll also get the most bang for your buck from your produce. If you've tried to buy like berries in the middle of the winter and it's like $7 for a pint of berries, now you can start getting them for like $3. So I'm all for cooking seasonally. Okay, so let me show you what's going on in my pan. Okay, so you can see the leeks have cooked down quite a bit. They pretty much were taking up the whole pan before, and now they're just a nice little pile. Okay, so I'm going to add in my chopped broccoli. And spinach. Okay. All right, so at this point, if you want to season the veggies with anything, like any sort of dried spices, dried herbs, a little more salt and pepper. You want the veggies to be nice and flavorful. So we want to season everything as we go. Okay, so I'm turning the heat off. Okay, so everything is nice and sauteed. You can see. Beautiful. Okay. So turn the heat off. And now what you want to do is kind of spread the veggies evenly in the pan, because we're not going to touch the veggies now again. We're going to be pouring the egg mixture right in here. So you want the veggies to be nice and evenly distributed in the frittata. So flatten them out in the pan. So this is what we want the veggies to look like, nice and flattened out in the pan. And now we're ready to pour our eggs in. So give your egg mixture another little whisk, because it's been sitting there for a minute. And we're going to just pour it right over the top. Okay. And then you can kind of just like move the eggs around a little, kind of shift the pan a little bit so that it's nice and even. And you can kind of let it sit here for a minute to let the edges start to set up a bit. All right, so that's that. So let it sit here for a minute. Just the edges will start to set up a little bit because the pan is still hot. And we're going to add the other half a cup of cheese. So I'm going to actually do it with my hand. Sprinkle that on the top. So what cheese did you end up putting on top of your frittata?
I put some feta and some cheddar.
Oh, you did. Okay. Okay, so this is ready to go into the oven. 400 degrees. Ooh. Let me get the top. Okay. All right. So 400 degrees on the middle rack in your oven for about 15 minutes. Again, if yours is smaller, you can probably do like 12-ish, like 12 to 15 minutes. I'm doing like 15 to 20 minutes. Okay. Okay, so mom asked how we're gonna know when it's ready. So first, when you first go to take it out of the oven, just beware it might be like poofed up in the center, which is normal. And when it sits out for a minute, it will deflate. So you did nothing wrong if the middle of it is all poofy. But the center of it should be pretty firm. Like it shouldn't be too jiggly when you go to shake the pan. And if you just kind of like touch the center of it very lightly, you can kind of tell that it's pretty firm. And plus, as with most things that come out of the oven, when it sits for a few minutes, it'll continue to carry over cooking a little bit. So you want to kind of pull it out when it's like maybe, just about done. And then as it sits there, it will continue to cook through.
Especially in a cast iron pan.
Especially in cast iron because it gets so hot. Well, yeah, and that's the more different colored veggies that you can put in. Like if you want to add in tomatoes or red peppers or something like that, then it's really beautiful. And also, if you are using fresh herbs, garnishing the top with some fresh herbs will make it look super fancy and nice. And the nice thing about using the cast iron is if you're cooking this up for a brunch, with friends or family, when you can have a brunch with your friends and family, it looks really nice to just serve it in the cast iron skillet. It's very pretty. Cook it in a few different other ways. So you can use the same mixture of the egg and the veggies and combine all that together after you've cooked the vegetables, add it into a big bowl with the eggs and the cheese, and then you can pour it into a greased baking dish, like a 9x13 dish, and bake that. And then it comes out more as like an egg casserole kind of situation. So it'll be like a little bit fluffier, a little bit thicker, and you'll get like square pieces instead of like triangle pieces from the skillet. And the other way that you can use the same mixture is to make mini egg frittata muffins, which mom has done. We've made those before.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah,
again,
really
the same mixture. Add the cooked vegetables into a big bowl with the eggs and the cheese, and just grease a muffin tin, and you can pour the mixture evenly into the muffin tin, and just bake that for the same time, like same thing. Both of the alternate ways, like bake for about the same time. The one in the baking dish might take a little bit longer to cook, but the muffin idea is really great as a to-go breakfast or even a to-go snack. So you can grab a couple of those to take on the go, or just to have an easy to reach for a breakfast or snack.
You could also make it into a quiche.
You could make a quiche too, yeah. So the only difference really is that there's a crust with the quiche. So
right. Well, you can buy the crust. You don't have to make one.
Yeah, you can buy the crust, yeah. And then you just pour it. And I think the quiche would also have a little bit more, it typically has a little bit more like cream
milk
in there, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise generally it would be the same. How long will the leftovers last? The leftovers will last for a few days. So if you're making it, today, you could have it definitely throughout most of the week. I'd say like up to 4 days. They don't really freeze well. It's not really something to go in the freezer because the moisture content, when you go to actually reheat it, it'll get kind of mushy. So definitely want to try to use it up. And also, you can also eat it as a sandwich. Like it makes for a really good like egg, like a homemade healthy or egg McMuffin kind of situation. And you can take a piece of the frittata and put it, between 2 slices of whole grain bread or an English muffin or something, and have it as a sandwich. And then it's like you're not eating, because you want to have different ways to eat it, so you're not eating the same thing every single day to use it up. Point I want to make: when you go to take your pan out of the oven, please remember that your pan handle is hot. Use a glove or a mitt or something, a towel. Do not put your bare hand on the hot pan. Okay.
That's a good way to end up in the hospital.
It is, but you forget because it's like not a normal baking sheet. You know, it's like a pan, so you forget that you shouldn't just grab it by the handle. Okay. Here we go.
Oh, look, my big bubble went away.
Yes, your bubble will go away. Here we are.
And it pulled away from the pan.
Yes, it'll pull away from the edges a little bit too. That's also a good way to know. But so I'm just kind of giving it a jiggle, and you can see that it's not really moving in the center.
Oh, I just tasted mine.
I'm gonna say that guy is done. A few other things that I'm thinking is, one, let it sit for a few minutes before you cut into it, because it is going to continue cooking a little bit. Also, if you want the cheese to get like bubbly and crispy on top, especially if you're using something like cheddar cheese that melts really well, you can hit it on broil for like a minute or two just to get the cheese nice and browned and crispy. Okay, what's the verdict?
It's delicious.
Yay! Delicious. Okay. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, and thank you for the flowers again.
You're welcome.
And my delicious frittata.
Oh, look at that tiny little sliver you took.
I took a piece out to taste it.
That's fine.